Now, what's happening in Australia is unprecedented. The bushfires have killed 18 people. They've killed close to 500 million animals. They're over twice as big as the Amazon forest fires, and they're exerting extreme political pressure on Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Earlier, he was heckled in Cobargo in New South Wales. There, 2 people have died and many homes have been lost. The Guardian has compared its main street before and after the fires, and its residents wanted to talk to the Prime Minister.
You're out, son. You are out. Not winner. Bye.
What about the people who What about the people who have nowhere to live?
And here he is meeting another angry resident who wanted to talk about more support for the Rural Fire Service.
How are you?
I'm only shaking your hand if you give more funding to our RFS. So many people here have lost their homes.
We need some vets.
We need more help.
There's the Prime Minister shaking a woman's hand and then walking away as she continued to talk about the help her community needs. He then encountered a firefighter who was equally unenthused at the idea of shaking his hand. Well, after these encounters, Scott Morrison said he wasn't surprised that people are feeling very raw. And certainly this crisis is bringing incredible pressure on many Australians. Here are some of the most recent pictures. These are from Victoria, and you can see the scale of not just the fires, but the volume of smoke that's being generated. Many of these are so big, they're even forming their own weather events, which can then generate lightning, which then in turn sparks more fires. These pictures released by firefighters in New South Wales again show us the extreme conditions in which these men and women are working. We've also got these pictures from a small town in New South Wales called Mogo. The devastation is all but complete. And because of all of this, thousands of Australians have decided they need to leave the areas affected, in part because conditions are predicted to worsen over the weekend with more high temperatures and more strong winds. Because of all of this, New South Wales has declared a week-long state of emergency. That is partly because of the calculation that the threat level is likely to increase rather than decrease. Another way of viewing the scale of this is this satellite image, which shows you the volume of smoke spreading across much of the state. Or you can look at the crisis in terms of figures. The Amazon bushfires of last year burnt through 900,000 hectares. The California wildfires of 2018 went through 800,000 hectares. In just New South Wales in Australia, more than 4 million hectares have been burnt in the last 6 months. That's brought devastating human costs and devastating environmental costs too. Ecologists at the University of Sydney are estimating 480 million animals have been killed by these fires. Koalas have been terribly affected. 8,000 are estimated to have died. To put that in context, that's around 1/3 of the koala population in New South Wales.
Hello, welcome to our nightly look at what's happening weather-wise around the world at the moment. And the big story continues to be what's happening in Australia. We've now seen the wildfires in Australia burn roughly an area the size half of England. Scorched by the heat and the smoke, of course, rising from it. It's been spotted some 4,000 miles away on satellite imagery here. This brown, massive brown tinge in the South Pacific as the sun set on Thursday afternoon, clearing away from New Zealand, where we saw skies like this on Wednesday, giving a covering in the skies above most of the country and dropping fine particles onto the snow in the New Zealand glaciers. And that can have an impact because with those surfaces not as white, you tend to absorb more heat, and those glaciers could melt a little bit quicker in the weeks and months ahead. But let's return to the wildfires because the smoke's cleared away from New Zealand for now. The wildfires continue to burn and they could get worse across parts of Australia as we head into the weekend. Reason is, well, the heat is expanding again. Severe heatwave conditions across many parts in the east, particularly from Friday across parts of central South Australia towards the north of Victoria. 45, 46 Celsius is possible through Friday afternoon. And as the wind strengthens, we tend to dry out the vegetation even more. And any wildfires that are burning will be pushed and grow into another state of uncontrol. Those winds pick up even further into Saturday, pushing the heat towards Canberra, where we could see another all-time record broken. But just notice in the west towards Adelaide, temperatures will have dropped. Southerly winds will be in place by the time we start the weekend. Welcome news, adds a bit more moisture, takes some of the heat out of it. But also, introduces rain and welcome rain to the east of Victoria, down towards Australian Capital Territory and across New South Wales, at least the southern half of New South Wales as we start next week. At the same time, some very heavy rain is set to push into the northwest, where it's been an unusually quiet season so far. First tropical cyclone is set to make landfall, we suspect, bringing strong winds and heavy rain.